Welcome back to 21 Days of Prayer. As the time you are watching this devotional, I am happily married to the love of my life. We're starting our lives together, but right now as I'm filming it, we are in the thick of wedding planning, folks, and we only have just a couple of days left until we say I do. And I remember as I was getting down on one knee with Elizabeth, and we were dreaming up about what this beautiful day looked like, we were just so excited. But we didn't realize the amount of work that goes in from that down the knee moment to I do, right? We're thinking about the best day of our lives and addressing invitations and picking out table settings and picking out what mason jars we're gonna have people drink out of. That doesn't necessarily feel like the best day of our lives. As we're walking through the book of John in these 21 days, I'm gonna take us to John chapter 2. Where it's one of the first stops in Jesus' ministry. And he is at, you guessed it, a wedding. And I'm sure, like Elizabeth and I, the bride and the groom spent a lot of time preparing for this incredible day, and we're so excited to start their lives together, but then the unthinkable happened. They ran out of drinks. It seems like a wedding nightmare to me. Clearly they didn't have the RSVP you can do on the not.com anymore, but luckily Jesus was to the rescue, and Jesus, in the Jesus that he is, should have just been able to wave his hands and, like a Disney movie, the drinks just appeared out of nowhere, right? That's the power of Jesus. But instead, Jesus just says this in John 2:7. Fill the jars with water. I can imagine the faces of the bridal party as they hear Jesus say these words. Really? Water? You think we're that cheap? We're gonna have water to all of our guests at our wedding. While Jesus could have just made the wine appear, I believe this miracle wasn't just for miracle's sake, and it wasn't just to save a desperate bride. I believe he made this miracle to teach those in attendance this. Miracles are preceded by the mundane. Say it again. Miracles are preceded by the mundane. And this is something I am learning with you guys because I am at the front of the line of some of the most impatient people in the world. I hate when things in my life seem unsettled, when there is disorder, unrest, pain, and brokenness in my life, and especially in the lives of those I love. I just want them fixed immediately. Doesn't Jesus want that too? And I too live for these camp high moments, right? The moments where I'm in worship or I'm reading my Bible or I'm praying and it feels like Jesus gives me a word that is just for me. That applies directly to the situation that I'm in. I've become accustomed to working so hard. I've become accustomed to not having to work for the God who has done so much work for me. When I don't feel God or I don't have that big God moment, when it's just the mundane, I often think that God's not there. I'm a pretty selfish Christian. I want to see the full picture of the mundane task that God's calling me to do, asking that God would show me what he has in the end for me, the reward for me at the end, to see if it's worth it enough for me to invest in this mundane task. Selfish, right? Maybe you relate to that too. What if instead with these mundane tasks, we shifted our perception? Viewing these fill the tanks with water tasks, not as chores, but as small, insufficient offerings to Jesus. Doing what he has called us to do, trusting that God can make the miracle out of the mundane. Faith is supposed to be mustard size, right? In John Mark Comer's book, Live No Lies, he says this. In the beginning, we have a choice, but eventually we have a character. What if instead you viewed these mundane choices, mundane tasks, as small tasks, but over time created a big character? John Mark Comer also talks about these choices kind of like financially investing in something. When you're my age and you're 20 or you're 30 and you're making these investments, it just seems like something that's being taken out of your paycheck that you don't get back. But in your 40s and your 50s and your 60s, you reap the investment that has just been sitting there over time. Yeah, maybe in my 20s and my 30s, I may not get it all right. I may screw up, but I'm continuing to make this investment, these choices, with the promise that when I'm in my 40s, in my 50s, in my 60s, I may not see it in my 20s and 30s, but there is the deep shalom of Christ that I get, what is character that I'm forming from my choices. What's your mundane today? Maybe it's your praying for you text that you send to your unsaved or your struggling friend that goes unread and unresponded to again. Maybe it's that meal you're cooking for the person that just moved next door and they never say anything about it. Maybe it's your weekly tithe, your seemingly unanswered prayer. Doesn't God want to do something about it? Maybe it's cleaning up after your kids again. I've known that one a little too well in this room. Maybe it's reading in your Bible about that king that did evil in the eyes of the Lord, just like how all the kings had done in the past 3 days of Bible reading. You know, Jesus never promises the miracle, but he promises that the miracle requires first us to do what he's calling us to do. And that in those choices, we trust that the miracle-working God is behind our mundane. So as we go into time of prayer today, think of what your life seems mundane, that you're wanting to quit because you're not seeing the full picture of God in it. Pray today that you can have God-sized eyes to see the miracle in the mundane.